A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Now after Jesus rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went out and told those who had been with him, while they were mourning and weeping. But when the disciples heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they would not believe. After this, Jesus appeared in another form to 2 of them as they were walking into the country. And they went back and told the rest. But they would not believe him. Later, he appeared to the 11 themselves as they were sitting at the table. And he upbraided them for their lack of faith and stubbornness, because they had not believed those who saw him after he had risen. And Jesus said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole nation, the gospel of the Lord."
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Stan came to me this morning and asked me to preach this afternoon, and especially after what I heard last night and this morning, I was pretty intimidated. But I think the call that we're hearing this weekend, the call to holiness, is an individual call. And holiness evolves into our whole life. It's not just about our prayer life. It's not just about coming to church. It's about our entire life. I think sometimes we forget that people watch us. People expect more from us. And despite the fact that we don't always hear it, they talk about the way we are. And they talk about what we do. And they talk about the way we live. This really hit home to me. About the second year, I was in my diaconate training. And I was working on my daughter's house. And we were digging a trench around the house, actually. And it was hot. It was a brutally hot day. And my daughter lives next door to this gentleman who's about 85 years old. And in the morning, he gets up about 5 o'clock in the morning. He tends to his beautiful garden, and he cuts his grass. And he goes in the house and drinks a half a quart of vodka. And he comes out and is this different human being. He's just this different guy. And anyway, I was digging, and there wasn't very much room. It was one of those lots in the old part of town where the house is almost up to the lot. You know, and I'm digging down there, and this guy's got this meticulous lawn, and I'm putting dirt, and a tiny, tiny bit of it is kind of going through the fence on his lawn. And he comes out, and he's just going berserk. You're putting, you know, he's just all over me about this dirt. I said, look, I'm sorry, I try to, we're talking maybe a quarter of an inch of dirt, but he's just going crazy. Anyway, he goes back in the house. And my friend, one of my best friends, who is not a church-going person and just recently calls himself a Christian. Before that, he wasn't sure he wanted to even call himself that. He's helping me at the time, okay? 10 minutes later, out comes the guy again. And I lost it. I stood up, and I said, listen, buddy, if you don't get out of my sight, I'm going to take this shovel, and I'm going to blankety. I went absolutely nuts on the guy. And the poor old guy kind of staggered backwards. He went into his house. And my buddy's sitting there, he's looking at me, and he goes, wow. He says, I've never seen you like that. that deacon training's really working. I don't think there was ever a time in my life when I felt more ashamed. I couldn't believe what I had done. Not so much the old man. He wouldn't remember tomorrow. Tomorrow he'd be bringing me vegetables. But here was a guy who had been watching me. I got my moment and said, Lord, thank you. Thank you for that. It made me much more aware when I'm out in public, and much more aware of what is expected of me, not only by God, but by all of these people around us that we're trying to evangelize. I didn't know what to say to the guy that day. Later on, I kind of said to him, that was the wrong thing for me to do, the wrong thing for me to say. He kind of laughed anyway. It was 100 degrees, and, it was perfectly understandable. I said, well, I'm supposed to be the deacon. I'm supposed to be the Christian. I think what we have to understand is that when we walk out the door, we are Jesus Christ. That's tough to live up to. But with the grace of God and with a prayer life, that's possible. It is possible. Right after that, I prayed for a gift. And the gift I prayed for was that every time I look at somebody, I see Jesus in them. I was granted that gift. And I tell you that it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult because sometimes there are people that you don't want to see that way. I've got a young fellow that was dating my daughter, and he had a drug habit, and he literally stole thousands of dollars from me. And I didn't want to see him as Jesus. But every time I looked at the guy, all I see was how much he was struggling in his life and how difficult it was for him. And I'm thinking, but I don't want to see him that way, Lord. I want to hit him. I want to punch him in the mouth. But I couldn't. It was a gift the Lord had given me, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Very thankful for that. But as leaders in the charismatic renewal, everybody has a pretty high expectation of what we have to deliver. And not just in our church, out on the street, with our neighbors, with our children's spouses and our children's boyfriends, some of the boyfriends and girlfriends that they bring home sometimes, and you just look and you go, where did I go wrong here? How did this happen? And some of the decisions the people around us make. It's not about that. It's about love. It's about taking the love of Jesus Christ and projecting it onto people who don't feel they deserve it, who don't feel anybody loves them, who maybe don't even think they want to be loved.